Hi, my name is Bob Kraus, and I'm a candidate for the United States Senate against Charles Grassley. I would do things different than Charles Grassley, and here is an example. It concerns the price of prescription drugs and what the government pays for them, and ultimately what you, the user of prescription drugs, pays in copay. And in 2005, Senator Grassley was chairman of the Senate Finance Committee when the prescription drug reform package was passed. Senator Grassley was in the forefront of the move to prevent Medicare and Medicaid from negotiating for the price of drugs that the Medicare and the Medicaid recipient gets. And this had big consequences. And I'd like to point out the example of the Department of Veterans Affairs that has been buying prescription drugs for veterans since the World War II era. A recent study was done of the purchase practices of both Medicare, Medicaid, and the Department of Veterans Affairs. It found that in the case of the top 20 drugs most commonly prescribed to seniors, that in 19 out of 20 cases that the purchase price that the Veterans Affairs Agency received for its drugs, the Veterans Affairs Agency got them much less expensively than Medicare or Medicaid. And that was because of the way that the drugs were purchased. Simply put, the Department of Veterans Affairs is able to negotiate the price of its drugs. Medicare, Medicaid must take the price that is offered by the drug companies. Now, how would that work? It would work like this. Suppose you went in to buy a used car and the car dealer said, you can have this car for $10,000. And you looked around the lot, that was the only car, you couldn't go anyplace else, and you said, okay, I'll pay $10,000 for that car. Now, suppose that the next day you went in and the dealer said, well, I'll sell you this car for $10,000, and you said, no, Mr. Dealer, I'll only offer $6,000. And eventually you reached an accommodation that was well below the $10,000. And you'd feel good walking off that lot because you know that you had received a fair and good deal. Well, consider what it's like for a Medicare, Medicaid when they have to do the same thing. What are those consequences? For Lipitor, as an example, Medicare, Medicaid pays $700 for a year's prescription for a recipient. While that same prescription for a veteran is $500. For a commonly prescribed acid reflux medicine, the Medicare, Medicaid pays $1,000 for a year's supply of the medicine. For a veteran, it'll be just $250. And why is it? Because the Department of Veterans Affairs has the right to negotiate. Now, why did Senator Grassley stand so staunchly against the right of the federal government to protect the taxpayer by negotiating for those drugs? Is it because he's been in Washington for for many years so far? I'll let you make that decision.